Hello, welcome to the second set of slides in Level 3, Unit 304, Person-Centered Care, Week 1. Okay, so this is part 2 where we're going to look at values required. And we're going to look a little bit about skills or how you use those values on a day-to-day. And we're also going to have a little bit of look at equalities as well. Okay. And these really relate to 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4 in your task 1. Okay, so these sets of slides should help you with that, really. Okay, so by the end of this session, you should understand the person-centered values and have some ideas about how to implement the principles for you to work in a person-centered way. Values are pretty central to everything that you do. You may think this is obvious, but it isn't to everybody. Just take a moment to imagine you're an elderly person with advanced dementia in a care home. How is the world going to seem through? How is the world going to seem through your eyes? Just take a minute to think about that. Exciting, scary, worrying, I don't know. Lots of different things, aren't there? So values shouldn't really be taken for granted. So the values we're going to be looking at here are this list of values, and we're going to look at them each in a little bit of detail. I'm going to give you an example and give you some time to think about and jot down some of your ideas about what you could do to actually use that value. Okay, so we're going to look at individuality, rights, choice, privacy, independence, dignity, respect, and partnership. We're going to look at each one of them in more detail, like I said, and I'm going to give you an example for you to think on. So after each example, what I suggest you do is pause your slides, jot down some ideas about what you could do, and then when you're ready, unpause your slide so you can look at the next slide where I come up with some suggestions about what you can do. But it would be nice for you to have a little think about, okay, what could I do? And then see if they match up with some of the things that I've said. Okay. Okay, we're going to start with individuality. And really put nice and simply, we have to remember that all of us are our own unique personality. We have our own interests, experience, wishes, and preferences. And they, excuse me, they affect how you do things or they affect how you look at things. So let's have a look. Here's a little example, and I want you to give some thought to how this would adjust the way you provide care to this individual. Remember, it's individuality we're looking at here. So Carol is 84 years old. She has moderate stage dementia, so not extreme, not early stages, but in the middle. She lives at home with her daughter who cares for her. Carol has 3 children, one of them being the daughter that she lives with. Her children say she used to be an absolutely brilliant cook. She loved cooking and baking and, loads of recipes and used to collect cookbooks and things like that. Unfortunately, since her dementia has progressed, she's really lost interest in her food, in what she eats, and she's losing weight. And I think the family find it quite difficult because she was a person who loved food before. So thinking about this person as an individual, what could you do to support Carol in maybe sort of, building up her weight? What could you do? Thinking about with the bits of information that you've got here. Okay. Remember, treat her as an individual. Don't just use generic ideas. Think about what might be good for Carol. Okay, so what I suggest you do is press pause, jot down some ideas. When you've jotted down some ideas and you're ready, unpause and then go on to the next slide and see what I've suggested. Okay, so let's do that, shall we? Okay, welcome back. Here are some suggestions. Explore if there's any way to involve her in the food preparation. Like if you're in a care home, is there some way she can help out in the kitchen or maybe in the dining room? Can she help lay the table? Could she help stir some pots? Sometimes that's difficult if you've got a big commercial kitchen. Can she help with the washing up or the drying of plates? Those sorts of things. There might be some safety issues there, but try and work out what you could do that could maybe involve her in a kitchen environment, because it's obviously an environment that's used to make her happy. Be sure you know what her food preferences are. There may be some things you've been trying to feed her that she really doesn't like. And also, if she was a good cook, she may like things cooked in a certain way. And maybe the family can help with that if Carol can't really remember it. But maybe you don't cook the potatoes the way she likes them. So is there something that can be done to help? Are there any ways to introduce some more variety into her meal choices? Um, Encourage her to choose what she'd like to eat every day. And also, if she has lost weight, provide some little snacks between meals to help boost her appetite and her interest in food. And maybe something a bit more interesting, a nicely prepared sandwich, a little sandwich, or even a little cake. It does help to feed people. A plate of fruit, maybe, if it's nicely done, if that's something that her family says she likes. Maybe she always used to have a certain cake and a sandwich in the afternoons, and she doesn't do that now. Said she liked a lot of baking. Can she be involved in a little cooking group where you're actually making cakes and fairy cakes and things like that? If she's made it, she might sort of say, "Oh yes, I'll eat it." So there's a thought, okay? But really, it's about what Carol needs to do. If there's a certain way she cooks something and maybe the chef can't do it that way, but her daughter can, maybe get her daughter to bring some in some evenings. Find something, that's cooked in her recipe that she likes. Maybe her recipes are so good the chef might like to try them, you know. Looking at rights, individuals have the right to be treated equally. This also means recognizing people's needs are different. Communication needs are very different from one person to another. Sensory needs, some people's hearing might not be as good. Some people's eyesight is definitely always not as good. So it's important to remember things like checking individuals have their glasses, their hearing aids working properly, because that can hold them back. You know, if the batteries run out in their hearing aid, and so often I've seen people, just going on for ages and not understanding why the person still can't hear them. Oh, I've put their hearing aid in, and then you sort of go, well, have you checked the battery for a while? Oh, I don't know, and then changing the battery and all of a sudden the person can hear and they start interacting again. So just remember that. Don't get too caught out. Dentures, make sure the dentures are clean. They need regular checking. They need dentistry appointments. As people's faces change, sometimes the dentures stop fitting. These are small details, but they stop people participating. They stop people talking in groups because they're worried about their teeth falling out, things like that, or they can't hear or they can't see as well as they should. They haven't had an optician's appointment for a while. I wouldn't do very well without my glasses reading these slides because I could see nothing. So I would find it very difficult to join in with our conversation. So just remember that. Think about yourself. What could you do if you couldn't see or hear? Okay, we're going to look at choice. Another scenario for you to think about. Same idea. Have a little read of it. Give some thought. Press the pause button. Um, Jot down some ideas. unpress the pause button and we'll go on. So this is a scenario about a service user's right to choice. Could it be better promoted? Now have a look at this. Arthur is a gentleman who lives in the community. He has 5 personal assistants who he manages through direct payment. One day his friend Susan comes to visit and notices that Arthur appears very bored, withdrawn and lonely. So he's sitting in the living room of his home and, no one's really talking to him. He looks a bit fed up and he's a bit lonely. His carer is in the kitchen cooking some food. She discovers that the carer has been in the kitchen most of the morning. She's been batch cooking a casserole for the week. She's cut some chicken up and fried it, adding a sauce, and she's now dividing it into 5 containers. So he's going to have that same chicken casserole for the next 5 days. Going to put some in the freezer. Now, before you say, batch cooking can be useful, but would the person want to eat? Would you want to eat the same meal for 5 days running? Have a little think about that. What could we do to involve Arthur's choice a bit more? He's not really getting much out of it. All he's getting is cooked meals here. But is he getting any other carer interaction? So press the button, pause, jot down some ideas. What could you do to make it better? So has he been given a choice as to what he would like to have cooked? Maybe he wants something else cooked later on. Maybe you could buy in some food for him so so the carer isn't always cooking. There's lots of sort of prepared meals you can buy now, which some people quite enjoy. Has he been involved in deciding? Is that what he wants of the carer? Or would he rather, as I said, get some meals? Or maybe he'd rather his daughter did some batch cooking and brought those in, and the carer did something more interactive with him. If he does want bits of food cooked, why is the carer not involving him? Could he not at least be in the kitchen with them so they could be talking and interacting? And are there bits he could do? Could the carer help him with a knife to sort of chop up some carrots? Or could he stand with the carer and stir the stew? Or could he just sit, as I said, just sit in the room with them and still be part of the conversation? How much onion would you like me to put in? Do you want some more of this? Or shall we put this spice in today? Or do you want this one? So in the sense of just because they may have chosen to cook a few meals, that doesn't mean to say that he can't be part of it. He could help with the washing up. He could help with stirring of the pot. He could help with carrying things if he's steady on his feet. So, you need to be more creative. Okay, let's go on to privacy. Same idea. I've got another scenario for you. You can stop, jot down some ideas. I'm just going to give you an overview, but obviously, if you've got more than I thought of, that's fine. Okay. So we've got Jim here. This is about privacy. How might helping to promote the service user's privacy help him with this experience of having a meal with his daughter? Jim is 64 years old. He has Parkinson's disease. For those of you who don't know, it usually means that you have quite strong tremors in your hand. Okay, sorry, I'll do it with this one. And it's quite hard. Fine motor is quite hard, like lifting a cup can be quite difficult. Spilling. He lives in a residential home. He needs help to eat his meals as he can't really steady the tremors in his arm. Once a week, his daughter comes to visit him and likes to help feed him. However, Jim finds this embarrassing, probably particularly because it's his daughter. And he's a bit ashamed of the fact that he needs to be supported in this way. This is a difficult one. Have a little thought. What can you do? Remember, press the pause button, jot down some ideas. When you're ready, unpress the pause button and we'll go on to the next slide. Okay, here are my suggestions. You might have more. You could ask Jim if he preferred to have his meal in his room instead of the main dining room. So as maybe, if he does need to be fed, it's not so embarrassing for him in front of all the other people that he lives with. You could ask Jim if he would prefer one of the carers to help him with eating. Maybe he doesn't need to be completely fed. He might just need a bit of hand steadying certain things. Or he might just need some equipment that would make it easier for him, like a specially shaped spoon instead of like using a fork with the food dropping off the fork. So you can get some spoons with a sort of knifey edge that actually work quite well, or you can get a spoon shaped with a fork end as well, like called the spork. And sometimes people find those easier and they can actually get it to their mouths themselves. You might help them put it onto the spork, and then they might be able to get it there with you, maybe just steadying, or just holding the bowl so they don't spill too much. You might just want something on his front because there might be some spillage. Um, or you could, if it's particularly about being fed by his daughter, he might not mind being fed by a carer, but he might be ashamed to be fed by his daughter. Maybe ask Jim if does he want to have his lunch separately before his daughter comes, so he can just have a nice relaxing time with his daughter, where they can just sit and chat. Okay, so lots of things to think about. Equipment. Does he need to be in the dining room? Could he go somewhere more private? Or could he have his feeding time away from his daughter? She could come later or earlier, and they could just have some nice father-daughter time rather than her. Maybe she wants to feed him, but if he doesn't want her to feed him, then she's going to have to roll with that a little bit. Independence. Here's another one. See what ideas you have for this. Look at the following scenario, which touches on issues to do with sensory impairment as well. How can you promote this person's sense of independence? Here we have Frances. She suffers from sight and hearing impairment. She feels anxious when she doesn't know where she is or where anyone else is. So she can feel a bit disorientated if she doesn't know there's somebody near her. She finds it frustrating to eat, as she finds it difficult to negotiate her cutlery on the plate. Again, press the pause button, jot down some ideas you have, unpress the pause button, and when you're ready, have a look at some of the ideas I've got as well. Here are some suggestions. There's lots of equipment that we could get to help Frances. Chunky cutlery, like some of the things I was talking about before. A plate guard, which goes round the edge of the plate, so that if someone's scooping in a bit of an erratic way, it doesn't all fly out of the plate. It actually hits the plate guard and bounces back onto the plate. So that's really quite handy, and you can sort of work with her at the bit just to sort of feel where the plate guard is, and um, to practice sort of like scooping to the plate guard and up. You could do a little bit of work with her, maybe in a private space where it's not too embarrassing for her. When she feels comfortable, she could do that herself. Trying to ensure she could sit in a similar spot in the dining room so it becomes familiar. So she knows the walkway to it. So, she sits on this table on this corner. And maybe with other people, you might find that there's someone that she's particularly friendly with. Maybe sit them together. She might want, to sit with a regular group of people on the same table. And then if she knows that the journey to that table is unimpeded, so you can sort of might help her to the edge of the dining room and say, well, now walk forward, walk to the right. She can do that, or you might just let her take your arm so that she can do it where she can feel her own way, but just have you for reassurance. So she's sort of doing it, but with a little bit of support from you. Don't let her sit on her own because she obviously wants some interaction. Try to encourage a little bit of conversation around the table. That normally happens naturally. And also, she might need a carer just sitting by in case she can't find some of her food. Some foods are easier than others to eat when you've got a visual impairment. So just you might want to sit by her and just reassure her regularly, just to say, "I'm here. Don't worry if you need anything." And your friend Susie sitting on the other side. And if she's having conversations with Susie, then she'll already be reassured, really. But if not, just make sure that she knows that the carer is just at arm's reach, really. Or just say, "I'm here. I'm just sitting back. But if you need me, just reach out and I'm here." Okay. So if there's certain part of a meal that she can't manage. Okay. Before we go on, let's think what we mean by dignity. Can be a bit more difficult. How might you respond to the following scenario? Thinking about the importance of dignity. Now, this is a difficult one. Okay. Rob is a 91-year-old gentleman who receives 3 visits a day from carers to help him with his meals. He likes carers to sit next to him, to talk to him, and keep him company while he's eating his meal. So, Rob lives at home. He sort of manages to a point, but there are some issues for him. So he likes to interact with his carers. I guess it's company for him. And the carer has made him some risotto, which is a sort of sticky sort of rice dish. When he's eating, however, Rob suddenly begins to choke. It takes quite a long time. Some of the rice has got stuck in his throat. And afterwards, he's very, very embarrassed about the whole thing. So what will you do? How can you do it and try and help him maintain his dignity? This is a difficult one. Okay, so again, press the button for pause, have a little think, jot down some ideas, unpress and see what I've got for you. Okay, some suggestions. For one thing, if there's any form of choking, you need to record it and you need to discuss it when you get back because the care plan might change. There might be something changing for Rob. So we need to risk assess that a little bit, really. As people get older, and especially if they've got dementia, swallowing is part of one of the later symptoms of dementia. So it could be that his illness is getting worse. So if he is finding it harder to swallow, you need to get that assessed first. Okay. Rice can be really difficult for people who are having swallowing problems. It's something that we tend to avoid unless he particularly loves it. And then you might want to look into it. But risotto is actually quite a sticky sort of rice. Whereas if you eat a sort of pilau rice, like sort of, like with an Indian or Asian meal, it can be easier, more grainy and more easy to eat. But rice can get sticky. So you could actually discuss with Rob, would he rather have a different sort of thing with a meal like mashed potato, which provides the starch, but is actually much more swallowable. And if he's interested, if he's happy with that, go with it, really. Certainly think about getting assessment from speech and language because if his swallowing is starting to be affected, you need to plan for it. But don't make too much of a fuss about it because he's already pretty embarrassed about it. But maybe when it's over a bit later on, when he's feeling a bit better, you can say, just keep an eye on his swallowing. Might get someone to come in and assess you. What do you think? Consider about the distractions. Really, talking and eating at the same time is quite difficult for a lot of people. So what you could say is, you know, I can't talk and eat at the same time because I would start coughing too. Why don't you just eat this little bit for a bit, or you can either stop and have a chat in between, or we could just finish the main meal and then we can have a bit of a chat afterwards. So play it by ear really. If he does like to chat, just have a couple of spoons, but take a real break between it to make sure that he's swallowed, and then say, okay, what did you want to say? They really don't encourage him to talk and eat at the same time, because that not many of us can do it that well, and we all end up sort of coughing and choking. So just be practical as well with him and say, look, it's not doing you any good, so let's have this meal. You could take a break between courses maybe and say, okay, in between the meal and the pudding, we'll have a bit of a chat. And okay, now we're going to have your pudding. Let's eat your pudding, and then afterwards we can chat some more. Other ways to promote dignity when assisting someone with personal care, whether that's be helping them get dressed. Think about the dignity. Is that important? Jot down some ideas about how you really maintain someone's dignity when you're doing some very intimate things. Like washing someone's bottom, basically, or helping them go to the lavatory or helping them put their pants on. Think about the things that are really important. Again, you can stop and jot down some ideas. Example, close the door to the bathroom, give them time, make sure the door is closed. The amount of times I've walked into care homes, seen people in the bathroom with someone with the door open. And you ask why, and they say, well, because I might want some help. Well, shut the door. If you need help, just sit somebody back on the toilet, stick your head out, but you can do it discreetly, really. Most toilets usually have an alarm call as well. So close the door. I don't sit on the toilet with the door open, and I bet you don't either. Always ask an individual if it's okay before touching them in any way, in the shoulders, anywhere. But also, obviously, if it's somewhere intimate, you really just need to say, I'm going to help you now use the toilet. I'm going to have to help pull your pants down a little bit. Okay, so you okay with that? Just check. It's dignity. It's giving them respect. Most people will say yes, thank you, but you should always give them that respect. Ensure if you're in a more hospital environment where there are curtains or screens, make sure the screens, doors, curtains are closed before people getting dressed and undressed, and that half the hall can't see them. If they're in individual rooms, like I said, shut their bedroom doors if they're changing so that people walking up and down the corridor don't look. And when you're going into someone's room, make sure you knock or speak before you enter. Um, Hello, it's me. Hi, it's Sue. I'm just coming in to see you're okay, and then open the door. Okay. Try to give, if you know that someone's quite responsive and want to give you permission, then always wait. Some people sort of like to have that power to say yes, come in, or no, can you come back in 5 minutes or something. But those who don't respond maybe that well, but you still, even if they're not very responsive, you should still knock and show a bit of dignity for them. Okay. um, okay. Other ways of promoting dignity is to make someone feel good. It's so simple. If people are going outside, particularly out of the care home or out of their home, make sure they feel good. Is their hair looking nice? Have you helped them sort of brush their hair, made it clean and tidy? If it's a lady, does she like to put her makeup on? And what sort of makeup does she like to use? Are her clothes, their clothes, this is for men as well, washed, cleaned, ironed? Are they creased up? Have they chosen a nice dress to put on? Sometimes people just like to be casual when they're going out, and that's fine. Say, no, I just wear jeans and a top today. But sometimes say, well, should we go? We're going out to the shops or going out to the cinema. Say, well, I think I'll put a nice dress on. We all do that. We all dress up differently at different times. So please don't forget that your service users have had lives where they've done the same thing as you. They like to put a little bit of makeup on when they're going out for something to eat. They like to put maybe a sparkly dress on like that. The older ladies here in the picture all looking very good and very glamorous. And they might want that as well. So try to be empathetic to their feelings, you know. If someone's feeling a bit down, you might encourage them to sort of dress up a little bit and say, "Yeah, we were only going to the shops, but you know, let's shall we, you know, put something a bit nicer on? And shall I do your hair for you? You know, so those sorts of things." Okay, a little bit more on respect. We've got Gloria here. This one's a difficult one again. She's a 67-year-old lady with advanced dementia, so she's not going to be able to explain too much to you. She might not be able to communicate very well with you. She lives in a residential home. She's been a vegetarian all her life. Since the development of a dementia, however, sometimes she forgets she's a vegetarian and she would eat ham or the beef sandwich. Should carers remind Gloria she's a vegetarian, or just let her eat what she wants, what she chooses? There's a dilemma for you. Jot down some ideas, like I said, and when you're ready, we'll move on. So here are some suggestions. Is Gloria making a choice based on her own free will when she reaches for a ham sandwich? All of these you might need a team discussion about. Okay. So you've got to say, what do you see when she goes for the sandwich? Is she not thinking? Is she, if you've got them out, is she choosing the ham one? Would she have eaten that ham sandwich if she didn't have dementia? What did she used to say about it? Was she, you know, did she feel morally very strong about her vegetarianism? Is it religious for her? Is it something that's important? So try and respect that whole person, the person behind the illness. You might want to talk to her family if she doesn't have capacity to discuss it. But you certainly need a team discussion so you all take the same approach. So you might need to bring people in and say, look, we're really not sure what to do. And maybe test it out. You know, if she has two things, and if you say, this is ham, Gloria, this is egg, Gloria, and she will choose the veggie one, or this is cheese, Gloria, then when you actually say it, you might want to put pictures for her, so she knows, or you might just want to put labels in. That might be enough. Um, if she's still not making a decision, you might want to talk to her family about it. And what you can do then is just make sure, if they feel very strongly that she would be very upset about it, then you know, make sure that the meat sandwiches aren't particularly near Gloria when she's making her choices. You know, that's sense. If she doesn't really want to. But whatever you do, do it as a team and involving the family if she's not capable of being part of it. Partnership. The last one is partnership. It's about you working together as a team with your colleagues, with senior members of staff and other professionals who come and go maybe into your care home, but also working with family, friends, and carers and them being part of the partnership. And also the person that you're delivering the service to, they are also a partner in their care. So, how do you think partnership working can work here? Stephen is an 80-year-old man with dementia and diabetes living in a residential home. He has a severe allergy to egg. How can partnership working help with this situation? What ideas do you have? As I said, press the pause, jot down your ideas, come back to me when you're ready. Some suggestions. Work with the individual. Find out about Stephen's likes, dislikes, preferences, and allergies. If it's a serious allergy, it needs to be noted somewhere. It needs to be noted so people know about it. It might even need to be up in his room somewhere. Make sure this is take responsibility. If you made the care plan, don't just assume they've read it, but make sure people on your shift know. You make the poster for Stephen. You know, you did the care plan, you make the poster. I am allergic to egg. Okay. Put something, maybe go out to the kitchen if you've got in-house cooks in your care home, because a lot of care homes do. You might want to have a little notice board where they say, make sure, you know, no eggs in Stephen's meals. Okay. And they might need to label his meal up separately if they're doing something where eggs are involved. He may lose the ability to communicate because of his dementia. He might not be able to tell you when he's having a reaction, so you have to go a little step further. You always want to try and encourage him to communicate when he's feeling unwell, but really you need to be thinking ahead as well. You might need to get some other professionals in to just discuss Stephen's egg allergy so that everybody in the team is aware. Maybe they can give a handout so you know what to do. Does he have an EpiPen? Is it that sort of allergy? Or does it just make him sick? You know, you need to know what the consequences of it are. If he starts being sick, you probably know he might have eaten some eggs somewhere. Okay. If he's truly allergic, then you know you need to know how to use the medication that will sort it out. So be prepared, have all that in the care plan as well. Okay, but the main thing is to make sure that everybody knows not to give Stephen eggs, really. And that's why your first port of call is your kitchens and your kitchen staff, really. But make sure it's written up somewhere. And as I said, I would particularly have it in his room as well, on the wall. I'm allergic to eggs. Please don't give them to me. That sort of thing, you know. Okay. Okay, I'm going to sort of quickly go through some equalities issues. You've probably done it in other areas, but so have a think about what do we mean by taking an equalities approach. What is recognised in an equalities approach? Again, take a moment to jot some ideas down, and then let's see what I come up with. Here's a picture. Is this equality? Equality here, if you're literally translating it, means everyone gets the same opportunity. And in this case, in the picture, everyone has got the same box, but can they all still see as well? No. We've given everyone the same opportunity by giving them all the same piece of equipment. But unfortunately, each of us are different. As you can see here, our three people are quite different. And still two of them don't come out that well, really. If you look to the picture on the other side, it's about equity. Here, what's happened is those who need have been given that little bit of extra help to make sure they get the same opportunity as the others. So that really the tall man on the box, he doesn't actually need a box. So he's given the box to the little boy on the end who can now see. So it's really saying that we may have to do things a little differently for some people because of their own personal needs in order to provide them with the same opportunity as other people. Okay? So don't mix it up with giving everyone the equal amount, the equal money, or the equal equipment, because that doesn't always work. What do we think about the value of diversity? Is a nice, diverse group of people, all from different backgrounds, different cultures, different countries, probably. What are our views about the values of diversity? What do you think? Is it useful? Is it valuable? Is it not valuable? Have some thoughts? So, differences between people are a source of richness. And they bring different experiences and different perspectives. So if you have a diverse team, you get different experiences, different perspectives, which gives you as a team a wider view on the world. So if we welcome diversity, for one thing, it can result in greater tolerance, and it can enhance our learning together and understanding, because people might have a different angle on how to do things that you might think, oh my gosh, that's so much better for me. And there is a feeling that individuals and societies are richer when there's some sort of mutual appreciation of the differences than when we don't appreciate the differences. And this is not just between you and your service user, but it's about you and your colleagues as well. Okay. It's about acknowledging the fact that your colleagues might have a different view on the world, and, being aware of it and taking it into consideration. So can you think of examples how we can address diversity in care homes? Again, you might want to pause, jot some ideas down, and then I'll come back with my answers. I'm not going to tell you. I want you to do some reading. So as I said, there's person-centered care, which you got in your extra reading for part 1, but also have a look at diversity in care. Just Google diversity in care and see what other information. There is so much information for you to do that you might want to have a look at, and it will help you with task 1. Okay, so that's it for this session. That will help you do most of task 1. I think we have a separate bit on empathy, which is in part 2, week 2. But that's it for this week. Okay, so read a bit up on diversity in care. Read up the extra reading that I've handed you. There is a quiz for you to do, so have a go at the quiz. And then once you've done that, you can move on to week 2. Okay, and I'll see you again in week 2.